Hey everybody, welcome to Board Force Gaming. I'm Doug, along with Brad.
Hello.
And Brad, continuing his streak of Xenoblade Chronicles love, picked up Xenoblade 2, Torna, the Golden Country. Is that correct?
Wow. Torna the Golden Country is correct.
Close enough. I know nothing about Xenoblade Chronicles 2, so I'm going to be pretty quiet for most of this. But no, so Torna, from what I understand, it's this basically a B plot that is essentially described and kind of flashback to through most of the main game of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and this is essentially just like an expansion on that plot. Is that correct?
Yes. So, if you've played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the way the blades work is when a blade dies, they become a blade crystal. When they are then reborn later on with either no memories of what had happened to them in the past.
Okay.
So multiple of the main characters in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 are blades, and most of them lived this time before and then are reawakened in Xenoblade 2, the main plot. So Torna is kind of exploring their past lives. Now the main ones, Malos and Mithra, are the two Aegis blades. And based on your face already, this is confusing if you haven't played the first one. What I do want to say, outside of all these connections to the first one, is you could play this game knowing nothing about Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Okay.
It functions very well as a standalone, I would assume. I obviously don't have that experience. But the way that the plot plays out, it leads you to a place where, okay, I get the general concept of everything that's happening here. I understand what this is. You don't get some of the connections to things. There's things that are hinted at, especially in the end game of, well, sometime da 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 da, or later on da 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 da, or when you reawaken da 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 da, that are very clear nods to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and there's a couple very explicit ones at the end that are very explicit nods to Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Yeah.
But you could play it as a complete standalone game because the basic story is Malos, this evil one of the Aegis, has come to completely destroy the world as it is because of some of these conflicts that are happening, and you assemble your normal JRPG ragtag group of friends to go and prevent the end of the world.
Okay. So pretty standard JRPG stuff.
It's pretty standard JRPG. The thing that I love about this game is if you are not a JRPG person, I feel like this would be one of those games where it's like, if you want to try a JRPG, this is a perfect JRPG experiment.
Okay.
It has every stereotype, so to speak, of a JRPG condensed into about 15 hours.
Oh, that has me more interested.
Yeah, it's a 15-hour game. It is very limited in scope, but not in a bad way.
Yeah. There's
tons to do, tons to explore, but it's not this overwhelming thing. If you sit down and play Xenoblade Chronicles, whether it's, I've never actually played the first, but whether it's 2 or X, you instantly get this almost overwhelmed feeling.
Yeah.
Just because there's so many places to go, there's so many things around you. This really does narrow it down. There's 2 places you can go. There's 2 titans you can kind of bounce between as you go through the game. The original one has, I don't even remember. I want to say it's like 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
But it pares it down to just the 2. You go back and forth to a lot of areas. You've got your side quests. You've got friends you're meeting. You've got all that stuff, your leveling systems, all that's there. And it really does feel like if you just want to try a JRPG to understand kind of the way these genre tropes work, this is a really good introduction to it.
I never even considered that perspective, but I know it is kind of it's on the shorter end, which that's actually a good point. From one of the things I had understand is like this actually changed quite a bit, or like changed one of the main mechanics of Xenoblade 2 and made it for a much better game than Xenoblade 2 because it changed this major mechanic. So what is that?
So Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has the blade system. So these blades are kind of your companions. They function as an extra fighter in battles, and they kind of do a lot of support skills. What this did, in the original one, it works like Pokemon. Like there are a shit ton of these, like an ungodly amount, and 98% of them are generic copy pasted things over and over again. And every now and then you get what are called rare blades, which are like the cool ones that have some personality, that are unique to them. They have unique skills. They have a unique look. They have like actual characterness to them versus just generic.
Yeah.
This says, screw that, and just narrows down to your couple of drivers who are the people who control is the wrong word in story context, and that would be a bad thing to say in story context, but basically are connected to the blades. And this just narrows it down to you have your 2 or 3 blades. They are yours. They are the only ones. You do not collect anymore. You get them just like you would in any other JRPG as you kind of collect party members.
Gotcha. So it basically gives you all the rare blades essentially right off the bat instead of having to go through all the randomness of like waiting.
It takes out the grind, because essentially in that game you would just have to collect a shit ton of these things and just raise your luck stat up a bunch and hope that you get a good one.
Yuck. So that's fixed.
Yeah. Yes. And the combat is simplified a little bit. It works really well. It's still got all the, if you watch a Xenoblade 2 or Xenoblade Chronicles 2 fight, it does look super overwhelming, but just like the first game, I feel like it eases you into the systems really well. And the systems really build off of each other in terms of arts and auto attacks and chain attacks and combo attacks and elementals. There's all these things kind of built up in there. And even in the short time, the game kind of slowly builds you back into them. Having been 6 or 7 months since I'd played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, it worked as a good refresher. Just like, oh yeah, here's that slow build again. Okay, we're here.
Yeah.
It works really well in terms of everything it's trying to do. It works well as a supplemental piece to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, where you do get this really cool backstory. And if you've played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the Aegis War is something, and the issues that come with Torna, I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't played either. Some of the issues that come with Torna are really brought out of like, here is why Torna is this important thing in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and here's why it's this important thing in this time period.
So on that point, one of the things I'm actually kind of curious about is I think a lot of stories are done a disservice when they're like, let's explain the mystery part of this previous movie. It's like finding out like Anakin is Darth Vader. Like that is not nearly as interesting story. I was curious, like, does it have that effect of like, because you remove all that mystery and like, here's the story, or does it actually feel like, no, this actually does, it's okay. Like it adds to it as opposed to.
So that's a hard question to answer without getting into spoilers.
Okay.
Not necessarily for this, but more so for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I will say that because Rex, who's the main character in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, is non-existent and is just a non-factor completely in this.
Yeah.
Because it is set, it's not like where did Rex come from? Let's explore what Rex was doing before this.
Gotcha.
It's no, what's 500 years ago? And it's a lot more universe building than character building for the most part. Now, Jin, Malos, and Mithra, who are 3 of the major players in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, do get a lot more background, but most of this is going like, okay, what was the world like here?
Okay. No, that's a good point.
Not how did this particular thing come to be, but more, where do these characters get their start? What is the world like? And we're not going to touch on any of these things like, here's this, this, and this. You get a little bit of like, okay, so one of the things with Mithra and Pyra is kind of where one comes from and how they kind of develop between the two. And again, I'm trying to be vague to avoid spoilers.
Yeah.
But that's kind of hinted at that, like, okay, there is this future thing. And that's one of the only tags they make towards the next game. A lot of it is much more like, hey, this is what Torna was. This is why Torna is an important thing. And we're going to tell Torna's story without directly referencing what you know is going to happen. A lot of it's just more like, here's Torna, here's what it is, here's why it exists.
So it doesn't end on a shot of Princess Leia in her cruiser with the Death Star plans.
Spoilers. So I'm not going to say yes or no. I don't want to get into the ending because there is some ending. There's I will say the last little bit there are substantial hints towards Xenoblade 2, but they do hold off. They do their best to hold off for about 14 hours.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that last hour they go on. The one thing I do want to talk about, I absolutely love this. It was awesome getting back into Xenoblade Chronicles 2. The story is great. The characters are awesome characters. I love all the characters in this. They do fit kind of a lot of your stereotypical JRPG hits, but they do it in good ways, and that never feels like it's overburdened by, like, we have to be this character from every other game.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to say that completely killed this game to me to the point where I put it down for 2 weeks and did not plan on finishing it.
Yeah.
So it has what's called the community system, which is tied to your side quests. So you can be friends with everybody because essentially you're building this community on Torna. You're trying to get people together. your characters kind of function as the knights of the people who are out there just trying to help these people at like this time when they're afraid of what Malice is going to do. So with that, there comes this community system where as you do side quests, you become community members with people and they join your community.
Okay.
And it's supposed to establish this connection to the world.
Sounds good.
What this game, yeah, it does. And I will say the side quests, content and activity wise, are not great.
Yeah.
They're fetch quests, they're go kill this thing quests. But the story of the side quests are really good. There's lots of emotional ones. There's lots of like, here's the bigger picture. Here's why this connects.
Yeah.
Here's this big emotional moment that I do really care about this side character. But the way the game works is you get so many and then you level up your community system. So like every 15 community members, you get a new community level and you become community level 2.
Okay.
And then you become community level 3. Almost at the moment, and the story goes so fast and the story is paced out so perfectly and you love going through the story, the moment before you get to what is clearly the stopgap, like here's the screen saying up like you're done, you go past this point, it's end game.
Yeah.
The moment you get to what feels like that screen and is more or less that screen, it says, man, you really want to help these people, make sure you have community level 4.
Okay.
At which point, you need to go and do side quests until you get to that point.
Well,
now, to put this in perspective, like I am not a side quest person. I find side quests to be fairly boring and to kind of slow most games down. And it is cool getting some pictures of the world, but I'll do my 1 or 2 and move on with my life.
Yeah, yeah.
So at the point, I'm like community level 2.5.
Ugh.
So there's a point in this game where I had to do probably 15-ish side quests in a row before I could get to the main point, the main story. And again, this is not a random point in the middle of the game. This is like, shit's going down. Let's do this.
Yeah, okay.
But
so funny.
Go get your community.
It just seems like you played that game wrong. No.
And it does. And again, what I will tell you, what made me go back to this is actually, I think it was an Easy Allies review, is they're like, there's this moment that sucks, but what comes after it is really cool. And what comes after it is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I got to that and I was like, God damn it. Okay, fine. I'll go back and do your stupid shit.
Yeah.
But it just sucks all the life out of this game. And again, depending on how you play it, if you're not a side quest person like me, it sucks all the life out of it. If you're playing the side quests as you go, I'm sure you could get to that point and already be at community level 4.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a possibility that this may have zero effect on your experience with this game if you're going through doing side quests as you get them.
Yeah.
I don't. And it sucked all the life out of this game to the point where I did like 3 or 4 and realized like, I'm going to have to do like 10 or 15 more of these. I'm going to have to spend the next 2 or 3 hours just doing side quests.
Oh, jeez.
Set it down and was like, I'm good. And it really did take this game that I was absolutely loving. I was loving the story. I was so excited. I was like, okay, this is building so well. Like, this just happened. I can't wait to see what this is. How am I going to deal with this? How are these characters going to handle this? Like, what's coming next?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I guess I'll go find your missing fish.
Ugh. Oh yeah, sometimes you end up like doing like level 1 side quests and stuff, and it's just like find the thing. It's like, oh fuck.
Yep, it's lots of there's the find the things. The like, there's a big monster out in the forest. I wish somebody take care of the big monster.
Oh god.
And again, like there are the ones where like there's some meaningful ones. Like there's one with like a husband and wife, and they're going through stuff. And like, where's my husband? And it gets into some really emotional moments, but it's still just like, go find this guy in this area.
Gotcha.
I found him. I talked to him. He came out here to kill this monster. Go kill this monster. Go back to point A. Mm-hmm. Yay, we're happy.
Gotcha. So overall though, are you feeling more positive about it than like Xenoblade Chronicles 2? Would you think it was a marked improvement on some of the systems they did that like going to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, like this is gonna be awesome?
Oh, again, if you take out that one that one thing with the community levels, I'm all in this game. I love it. They refined Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in a great way. The story's fantastic. The characters are fantastic. The gameplay is excellent. Everything about it is excellent. It's just that one thing that just killed it for me. And
Gotcha.
It's very rare that I find something like that big of a flaw that I'm just like, I'm done. I'm out. Yeah. Especially in a game that I love this much. In terms of comparisons to the original, they're both great. I love them both. Mm-hmm. It's one of those like, pick either one. I mean, if you're gonna play both, play Xenoblade Chronicles 2 first because this does add so much lore to it. But if you just want to try out Xenoblades, I think Torna is an awesome game to just, you know what? It's $30. I think
Mhm.
I'm gonna give Xenoblade a try. I'm gonna try out a JRPG. This is a game for you.
Okay. I think that's a good place to end it. All right, so we are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us at Workforce Gaming on Twitter and subscribe to us, whatever you listen to us on. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.